Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike here with Sam. And Sam, it's official. Cheating is legal in the NBA now. How are you doing?
Honestly, I wish I could laugh, but I mean, I did laugh. I'm okay, I guess. My trust in all institutions is dead in this country, and everything sucks. No, it's obviously we're talking about the initial results, which are not even really official.
It's Baxter Holmes, though.
Of the Clippers investigation into Steve Ballmer paying Kawhi Leonard under the table. And, for now it looks like there are no confirmation of any wrongdoing, at least according to in the eyes of the NBA, right?
Yes, this is Baxter Holmes. He said, per him and some other people, the NBA has found no evidence showing the Los Angeles Clippers owner Steve Ballmer funneled money through team sponsors to pay Kawhi Leonard in order to circumvent the salary cap, sources tell ESPN. And listen, there's never been anything more obvious than that he did that shit. Allegedly, if they're trying to sue small podcasts
Thank you for covering
like
us with the allegedly. I don't want to go after, if Adam Silver's afraid to go after the sixth richest man on earth, I guess I am a little bit too, but yeah, this is not Suns news we're opening with. We have a whole bunch of actually Suns-related stuff, kind of minor Suns-related stuff happen this week, so it's been a little bit. We'll cover it all one by one. Oh, and also thank you, by the way, for covering the Patreon episode a few days ago since I was out of town. I did not listen to that one, Mike, but I'm sure you did a great job.
Yeah, you know what? I am a little curious about one thing we talked about, which I'll get to in a second, but
sure.
I will say the NBA did respond to this report. So Baxter Holmes, if anyone should believe Baxter Holmes, it's us. This is the man that essentially forced Robert Sarver to sell the Phoenix Suns and resulted in Matt Ishbia owning the Suns. That's the Baxter Holmes story, is the reason that all kicked off. So we know that Baxter is a pretty good journalist. That's like his whole thing. So I imagine this came from a real place here. But the NBA spokesman, Mike Bass, said ESPN's article regarding the Los Angeles Clippers investigation, for which the NBA declined to cooperate, contains numerous and significant inaccuracies. The results in this matter will be made clear once the investigation is concluded. And so essentially what happened is Baxter is saying the NBA is going to do nothing. At the very least, they're not going to allow him to pin it on Steve Ballmer. They're not going to allow the NBA to pin it on Steve Ballmer. Maybe there's somebody else they could blame it on, or Uncle Dennis or Kawhi directly. And yeah, like you said, Steve Ballmer is a very rich person that will probably become very litigious if he's accused of any impropriety. And the NBA is saying, actually, we don't know yet. We'll see. We're going to announce at some point. It's been almost a year. And we'll see what happens.
Here's the thing. For any Suns fans who are thinking, how does this apply to us? It obviously applies to everyone because cheating is bad. I don't really know how to say it. Yeah. I think what's interesting is, like, has the NBA as an institution become too big to fail? Is how I would phrase it, because we're getting these wild valuations now. That is actually a little bit
fake.
Right.
They're not really worth that much, but that's how much they're being sold for. It kind of feels like...
I don't know. They're being sold for that much, right? So the Lakers just sold for $12.5
billion. We're in the NFT era.
That's kind of That's kind of related to what I'm saying. So the Lakers just sold for $12.5 billion. the player salaries continue to go up and up and up based on TV rating deals, which of course like have a lagging effect of kind of, those get set every 7 or 8 years whenever there's a new CBA. And everyone's sort of just acting like engagement and interest in the league will go up forever because that's kind of been the trend over the past 30 years. Matt Ishbia, we're going to talk about him in this episode too, has certainly tied his financial future to the success of the league. But like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to be the one, obviously, as a lifelong fan of this league, to bet on its failure. That's certainly not what I'm saying here.
Well, we've in some senses we've bet on its success as well.
That's definitely true. People can point the finger back at us. Yeah. But it's like, guys, are you sure you want to are you sure you want to piss off fans like this and kind of slowly over time erode the trust of certain fans that they can truly believe that different franchises are on an even playing field, which is kind of essential if you're going to have a league where there's purportedly parity.
Yes.
And 30, soon to be 32 teams that can compete for a championship. Fans need to believe that their teams actually have a chance and that mega rich owners can't just go around circumnavigating the cap with no consequences. And so that's why it's relevant. Like, you really want to fuck with the fans like that? Mm-hmm. It's insulting.
Not just promoting parity, but also they're like moving in a way that acts like the most important thing now is the second apron. The whole season, the whole last 2, 3, 4 seasons has revolved around how difficult it can be to build a team if you're following the rules, and how that's important for the future of the league based on what Adam Silver and the owners are trying to purport. And then an owner maybe isn't following those rules and the NBA is going to look the other way. That's not a good look. It's just directly in opposition to everything else that they've been saying. And listen, if it was the Suns doing this, would I have a different tune? Probably. I'm not going to pretend like I wouldn't. I think it's
corruption
bad still.
Is only bad if I am not involved in it, he says.
Exactly.
Mike B. Hill, 2026.
Well, I mean, I didn't do it. Look, if Matt Ishbia was funneling money through our podcast to give a no-show deal to, I don't know, who would it even be?
Don't drop any brands. Don't list.
No, it would be to us. Why can't I think of the point guard they just signed last season?
Point guard they just signed? Who? Jamari Bouye?
No, before last
Pat
season.
Spencer? Who are you talking about?
The little guy who sucked on defense.
Who are you talking? Tyus Jones?
Tyus Jones. If
you can't even remember his name
it's gone. It's gone, and it's due to the trauma that he's caused. Okay. I've erased him from my memory. But if Matt Ishbia wants to funnel money through our podcast to give Tyus Jones a no-show deal to sign a minimum contract, I'm not going to say no. It's apparently not punishable by anything. I'm hoping for business, Matt Ishbia. You want Kawhi Leonard to come here now? I'll plant some trees even. I'll do the work. I'll plant some cactuses, some cacti.
My worry is that Matt Ishbia would do it for the wrong guy. Kawhi Leonard has some juice left in him.
Yeah.
My worry is that Ishbia, did I just try to call him Ish? Does he have a nickname? Have we decided on a nickname for him yet?
I mean, Matt is a nickname, I guess.
I just don't know. Like, it feels weird trying to call him Matt. My worry, though, is that he would try to circumnavigate the cap for Draymond Green. Or just like something stupid and not worth it.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, all right. So do you have any final words on this?
I am curious how the NBA could recover from the way that fans are reacting to this. Now, of course, there are Clippers fans that are celebrating it. And understandably, you don't want draft picks to be cost or players to be cut or whatever. But it'll be interesting to see what they could possibly say at this point to make people more confident that there aren't teams just cheating. And the other thing I will say is there is a chance that a whole bunch of teams are doing this. And the NBA was like, all right, maybe we don't punish the Clippers for this if this is happening on 7 or 8 different teams, and that would just make it look so much worse, and maybe they can find a way to curb it some other way in the future, but they're not going to just, pick up the rock and see all the bugs crawling underneath.
And pop the bubble and make the Lakers worth only $7 billion instead of $12 billion,
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. But If ever you needed evidence that, Adam Silver isn't your guy, if you're thinking Adam Silver is like suddenly going to grow a spine and go after billionaire owners, that's not his job. That's not what he's paid to do. He works for them. And it's unfortunate, but it's the world we live in.
There was huge news today.
Huge.
The Phoenix
Suns
Suns signed an NBA player today, and we didn't even start the podcast with it. Can you believe it?
I can.
I'll read the tweet out loud. In fact, let me find it directly here. Free agent forward Haywood Highsmith has agreed to a 1-year deal to return to the Phoenix Suns. And then his agent is referenced in the tweet by Shams Charania. So, what happened?
Masterful work by his agent in the past week, who had to text Haywood Highsmith that he had been waived. Mm-hmm. And then, again, 3 days later, that he had been re-signed.
Copied and pasted the text from March.
really the type of agent work that deserves a Shams shout out online.
Jerry Dianis is his name. Shout out to Jerry. So what happened? Haywood Highsmith signed with the Phoenix Suns after the buyout period in the NBA season last season. He signed with the Phoenix Suns, as far as we understood, because the Suns were willing to give him next year, this coming season, as part of his contract. So he signed for the remaining few months of the season and then the entire next season, partially guaranteed. The Phoenix Suns then waived him about a week ago, very confusingly to me. And supposedly $1 million of that was guaranteed that he could potentially get. And now today re-signed him for the year on a, we're assuming, minimum deal. I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed. That's all the Suns had. On a minimum deal to return to the Phoenix Suns. I thought it was bad that he was waived. I did not think that it was a situation where the Suns could just afford to lose a veteran. And I'm grateful he's back. I'm a little confused by it, but we can talk about what that could potentially mean.
We'll get into that in a second.
What did you think when he was waived? And like this whole, I talked about it on the Patreon podcast because that's the only one that we've recorded since then, but I haven't talked to you about it. So what did you think about this whole thing?
Yeah, obviously I didn't have the chance to really react to it. At the time, I was taking it sort of as a move at face value that, I guess they want to open up a roster spot. And then Gambo's tweet came in later that day, I remember, that said that, hey, they might be interested in re-signing him if he clears waivers. I think in a way there was the potential for this sort of agreement of Highsmith, working through the waiver process over the past few days. There was potential for this to work out on either side, right? Like, I don't think this was a move that didn't favor either party because there was the chance that the Suns were allowing the other 29 NBA teams to say, hey, take a look at this guy. He's played several years in the NBA. We know he had a pretty good season in Miami a couple years back. We're not like fully committed to him. So if anyone else wants to pick him up, he's on waivers and here you go. And I think like there was maybe an opportunity on Highsmith's end, as we talk about whatever his communication might have been with his agent, to where maybe they were hoping that another team was going to take a strong look at him and say, hey, we'll give you 16 minutes a game off the bench, like you'll be a main bench player for us. You're going to get minutes out of the gate. Whereas I think both you and I can agree, and we've talked about before, Mike, like Highsmith I think he's a pretty good player, could absolutely log minutes on the Suns team, but I think is starting the season now that he's back with the team pretty far down the depth chart. He's really going to, like, either some injuries are going to have to open up some minutes or he's really going to have to win some battles in training camp and preseason in order to be favored by Jordan Ott going into the year. So I think having him work through waivers, maybe there was going to be a team that takes a closer look at him. Evidently that didn't happen, or at least no one decided to pull him off of waivers. And now the Suns get to bring him back. Maybe they save a little bit of money in the process. In fact, they probably do save a little bit of money in the process. And also, Highsmith is going to just basically be, he's going to have to work for it. He's going to have to like work really hard for his minutes going forward.
Mm-hmm. I just think he's a player that during the course of an 82-game NBA season is good to have. It's good to have a forward who's played in the NBA at a relatively high level in the past and is kind of, I described him on the Patreon podcast as kind of a Swiss Army knife type player in that he even played occasional minutes at center when the Suns had injury issues with their centers in this last season because they needed him to play. But speaking of him playing this last season, he didn't play a lot. Why didn't he play a lot? Because he was hurt. He was hurt coming into the season. He was fully bought out and available as an injured player. The Suns signed him after not playing a single game in the season. He made his debut, played like 8 games for the Suns last year. Played a lot in the time that he was available.
91 minutes in 7 games, about 14 minutes a game off the top of my head. And shot 8 for 14 from deep in his limited playing time.
Yeah.
How about that?
Mm-hmm. And then he didn't play anymore. And why didn't he play anymore after that? It was because he was injured again. And I think that's the part that's a little interesting. David, our friend David Nash, noted on Twitter that although there was $1 million guaranteed in year 2 of his contract, there was a prior injury protection on that knee with that $1 million. So even though the Suns sort of waived him and then got him back on a contract, it seems like that $1 million, maybe they didn't have to pay it out. I think that's the suspicion as far as why they may have actually done this. Now, maybe there's more information there, but I don't really care. I mean, like, I guess I kind of care, but it's just weird.
There was such a rush. This is such a funny story because there was such a rush to try and get the accurate info out today from like a lot of parties who basically everyone I think was wrong.
Yeah.
Trying to talk about this move.
Yeah, it appears that the speculation that there's like the 3-year of experience thing, 1-year deal to save a little bit of money for the Suns. Apparently that isn't quite right. It's not really accurate.
Well, I think it's accurate in the sense that it would save a couple $100,000, but not more than the $1 million that potentially the Suns. I don't even care. I don't even care to explain this much about it. It doesn't matter. What I heard, this is 100% accurate information coming straight to the source here, is that Matt Ishbia wanted to scrap Highsmith's minimum salary entirely and instead proposed to him that he will be paid out a commission and bonus structure based on him meeting weekly KPIs. Every game, there will be different KPIs.
Were they mortgage related?
They're mortgage related KPIs. How much financing can Haywood Highsmith secure? That's what's going to pay his salary next year.
So
No,
how many
be,
how many mortgages can he funnel legally to United Wholesale Mortgage?
If you offered Haywood Highsmith a contract that says we'll pay you $10,000 per scrappy hustle play, do you think he'd take it? That would be one of the KPIs.
I don't know. That's interesting. The coach has a lot of, say.
He gets $100 per inch of gravity created by him standing in the corner on a possession.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he'd take that? That's one of your
How
KPIs
is that
right there.
calculated? But yeah, I think I would.
$100 per inch of gravity. You calculate, I think, the closest defender. I haven't thought this through.
This podcast is so stupid.
If you've ever worked in corporate America, these are like, I'm trying to base these off of what real KPIs are, which are, they're stupid. They're kind of stupid.
You're right.
It's not like, it's not going to be
well,
points
he's got to show up to
rebounds
practices on time. Well, we're going to start
I think
there.
screen assists, or maybe he's not a big screener, so maybe off-ball screens for Haywood Highsmith would be a big one.
3-pointers made points. Obviously, rebounds I think are going to matter a lot if we're talking about KPIs here.
$50 per high five.
Should we create a KPI system and add that to our Hustle Player of the Years? We don't. We have to have a voting commission for that. I have to remember that. We're going to do that live on our Discord at some point, where we change the rules.
We will.
For how that's
I don't want to be the one. I don't want to be the one to do it. But if someone else wants to come up with the KPI system and maybe a spreadsheet to track it, then go ahead.
The thing about Hustle is it's a little vibes based. Really, they should be leaning on us the way they do for the Supermax contracts by letting the media vote as to whether a player can be on an All NBA team, which impacts the total amount of money. They should just ask us how many Hustle points did Haywood Highsmith have at the end of the year? I think he won one week on our Patreon podcast.
I think he may have won some points one week. I don't remember. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me.
Okay.
Let me ask you, so you were talking about this the other day. So just to be clear, you'd rather have Haywood Highsmith in roster spot number 15. I would actually think he's like 15th in the depth chart, by the way. I think he probably starts the season at least ahead of Jamari Bouye and Koa Pete. Would be my guess, right? That puts him at number 13, conservatively, give or take.
He got minutes over Ryan Dunn last year.
I think him. I don't know. I think Dunn is probably over him to start the season. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But like, you'd rather have Haywood Highsmith than just an open roster spot that maybe that becomes useful in a trade. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I think.
Yeah, I get that.
I think the Suns are going to need him, and there's a chance that this is not a guaranteed deal as well, right? I mean, they can cut guys to get another roster spot open. I understand that there's money involved, but like that's a possibility. You can probably also trade guys. Stuff will open up. I'm not really that concerned about it, but the Suns kind of need depth. They need veterans. They need guys who aren't going to shit themselves. This is the analogy I use a lot when the games are coming down towards the end of the game, and he feels like a guy that's not going to do that, because the guys they had that were like that last year were Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. As much as they often struggled, when Royce was in at the end of a game, I was more confident that they were going to do well at the end. I don't know if the stats back that up, but I do feel like that's how I felt. And when you got a young guy in there, there's always a chance they make a massive mistake. I think we've seen Ryan Dunn do that a few times. Oso Ighodaro missed some crucial free throws. Poor Rasheer Fleming missing that free throw to win a game at the end of the year when he was trusted to finally close a game. They need guys who are veterans, who can play well, who understand coaching, who understand the ability to do the right thing in the right time. I think Highsmith is definitively a smart player. Just, in my limited experience of watching him play, going back to Miami, and then of course a few games with Phoenix last year, I just really look forward to fans absolutely losing their mind on like a random March weekday when he plays 16 minutes instead of Koa Pete. That's definitely going to happen. Mm-hmm.
But that's the name of the game.
That's right.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
You've heard us talk about Alchemy Roast before, but if you still haven't tried them, consider this your reminder. One of the things I appreciate about Alchemy is that they're focused on the coffee itself. They source quality beans, roast in small batches, and pay attention to the details that make a difference in the cup. Whether you're making pour-over, espresso, or just a standard drip coffee at home, it's the kind of coffee that makes you look forward to your morning routine. And if you're someone who drinks coffee every day, upgrading what you're brewing is one of the simplest changes you can make. And you've been hearing these ads thinking, I'll check it out later. Well, now is a good time. Head to alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code TIMELINE to get 10% off your order. That's alchemyroaster.com, promo code TIMELINE today to support them, a local Phoenix business, and to support us here on this podcast. You want to talk about the schedule?
Yes, that also happened this week. This was a busy week.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We have like a little trickle of things that are happening for us to talk about. So thank you for listening. If you're one of the people who listens to basketball podcasts in mid-August, this is the good stuff you've got right here.
Freaks like us. Where should we start with this? You want to talk about the nationally televised games first, or?
I think that is always the place to start because there are other things that happen with the schedule. But like, look, at the end of the day, everyone plays 82 games. Everyone plays their own division a certain number of times.
You play every team, yeah.
Strength of schedule is what it is. The Suns usually get shafted, although maybe less so this year. I guess we will talk about that. But I do think the national TV snapshot is always interesting. Because it kind of just reflects how culturally relevant your team is at that point in time.
There are 9 total nationally televised games right now, not including if they like do well in the NBA Cup or whatever, and those could be nationally televised if they get deep into that. The first nationally televised game is not until January, so they don't have one until 2027. I'll just read the games right now. At Denver on NBC, at Dallas on ESPN, home for the Lakers on Peacock, home for the Wizards. Is that right? Yeah, I guess it is. That's an interesting one.
Well, the Wizards have players this year. Also, every single team in the league has, this isn't much, but 2 nationally televised games. So they're just random teams sometimes.
Yeah. At the Lakers on ESPN, against OKC on NBC, at San Antonio, against Denver, and then lastly at Golden State in April. So mostly Western Conference teams outside of the Washington. I didn't notice Washington when I first looked at this. Kind of a weird one. But you're right, the Wizards will be interesting. It's just I don't really understand the narrative part. How do they sell the narrative of that Wizards game?
I don't know that there's really a narrative that needs to be sold. And you mean like in terms of the 2 teams and who they are to each other?
I guess it's just a picture of Devin Booker and a picture of Trae Young, right? That's all they need.
Yeah,
Stars
or
clash in the desert.
Yeah, or Debonsa or Alex Sarr, right? Like that's going to be kind of what
by
they're
then it'll be
on.
it'll be the young guys. Alex Sarr versus Kaman Malawich,
sure.
who's the best sophomore.
Yeah, I mean Anthony Davis realistically is not going to play in this game because he'll play 18 games this year. But like I am rooting for the Wizards to have a meaningful season, and I think there's a real chance that they're going to be competitive this year.
This is the same number of nationally televised games as the Phoenix Suns had last year. There was a time, I think, early on in this podcast when Suns fans, I feel like, cared about the total amount of nationally televised games. I think it probably was related to the way that folks talked about Devin Booker at the time, and that we wanted Devin Booker to get a little more shine for the stuff that he does well.
I agree. It's 100% correlated to that.
I don't care. I mean, we watch them all, so maybe we're different, right? We watch them all. But like I have trouble caring how many there are. In fact, in some ways, I don't like some of the nationally televised games because sometimes the announcers kind of piss me off a little bit more. And I don't know. I just find myself just not really caring about the amount of games. I do care about them a little bit more when they...
I have a bit of a different view.
Okay, I do care about them more in that when they're happening, I'm like, okay, I know more people are watching this, so I want the Suns to win.
Yes.
But yeah.
Especially like these days, like the NBC Peacock games, because it's not cable, right, got really good ratings last year.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of eyeballs are watching those. And I think about the fact, as someone who's very invested in Devin Booker's, hate to use the L word, but legacy and career, I still think about the fact that like maybe a pinnacle moment in Devin Booker's career when the most eyes were on him was the 2024 Olympics, and him being like the guy who took the back seat and said, I'll do it, and like, helped them win gold and was pivotal in every game and whatever, but as like a 3-and-D role player. But the sheer number of people who were watching those games and watching that moment meant that it was embedded into everyone's minds, across the country, that, oh, this is Devin Booker, and like, he's making a meaningful impact here. And obviously national TV games in the regular season are like less of that, it's less legacy defining, but it still matters to me whether your superstar gets 9 opportunities to show out for a national audience, or if he gets 25 or 30 opportunities. And as Devin Booker gets older, and as he continues to climb up, like, the overall scoring lists in NBA history, I don't know, this stuff does matter to me. Unfortunately, maybe I'm not supposed to admit that it does, but yeah, the Suns are 18th here for anyone wondering in national TV games this year.
That feels right?
I guess they're wedged between Atlanta and the Clippers at 17th and 19th. Does that feel right?
No. That does not. Who's going to be watching the Clippers?
Yeah, well, I guess the Clippers are LA, but like it doesn't feel like the Clippers should even have 8 games. The Hawks have 10.
Just total
the Blazers.
on the season. They shouldn't have more than 8 games.
They have 8 national TV games. The Hawks have 10 national TV games. The Blazers have 11. I think that's too many for the Blazers, personally. And then you get up to the top 14 teams. Once you hit Cleveland has 17. and there is there's a line there. Everyone above that has at least 17 games. Like that feels like a lot of games.
It is a lot, yeah.
The Lakers, the Knicks, the Sixers, and the Spurs are in a 4-way tie for 34 national TV games. Do you have any reaction to that?
Lakers, Knicks, Sixers, and Spurs are tied for the most.
At 34 each, and then Oklahoma City, who had the most wins last year, of course, have 30. They're fifth.
That's
Which is
interesting.
kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean,
Not surprising.
no, I'd
but
rather
funny.
watch the other teams. I will say, like those other 4 teams, obviously there's intrigue for the Philadelphia 76ers.
The Lakers, I think, deserve it the least, obviously, but they are the Lakers. The Knicks won the championship. The Sixers, could go any way. Like, they could be amazing. They could be a circus, but at the end of the day, they have LeBron James.
And probably potentially his last season, although he could be signed next year too. But
the Spurs are really good.
And the Spurs are really good, and they have Wembanyama. Like, it almost feels like they should have the most just for the state of the NBA. They're going to go, hey, yes, we didn't punish Steve Ballmer, but look at this big giant alien. In this case, I don't know. The Knicks make sense, right? Because they just won a championship. They're in the largest city. They're the second most popular team right now, like after the Lakers, and give them games. That makes sense to me. The 76ers, I think it makes sense too. And you said Lakers and Spurs were the other two. Spurs make sense. And yeah, I guess the Lakers are the least deserving of those 4. I guess you're right. I mean, I think they're going to be good. I think the Lakers are maybe a little bit underrated by some people now because of the changes that were made. But if Luka is healthy, I think they could be a top 4 seed in the West pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be good. So the Lakers, good, plus Luka, star power. I think that is probably pretty wise of the NBA to do that. OKC is in an interesting place where this will be like the 3rd year with this team, right? As it's like the same guys. Almost
as is, you mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
And
just like, kind of an admission that nobody actually likes that team except people in the state of Oklahoma.
And that's still a lot of games, though. I mean, that's still a lot of games. I'm not going to watch a ton of them. If I'm being
they're an
honest. I don't
amazing-
intend on
they're-
watching a ton of them.
They're a really good team. Can you imagine taking a 60-win team and legitimately being like, we're going to put you on national TV 16 times?
Yeah.
Instead of in the top 10.
Is that what the
like,
Spurs
would
was
be-
like in their peak? Probably. It probably was.
No, the Spurs were on national TV all the
Yeah,
time,
I guess they
and
were.
people glazed them. A lot of people, Suns fans hated the Spurs. If you're talking about the Popovich, like the 2000 Spurs,
but they
and
called them
beautiful game
boring.
Spurs,
They called them
whatever.
boring.
No, they didn't. I mean,
Okay,
maybe
you're thinking of like the 2013 on Spurs. Before that,
Yeah, I'm
they were
thinking of,
known
like, the
as
Patty Mills
boring
Spurs.
Spurs. The boring Spurs.
I just think you lived in a bit of an Arizona bubble where it was like Spurs was synonymous with evil, and to most of the country, they enjoyed watching the Spurs.
The
in
other old
2000s.
people listening to this will back me up in saying people did not like watching the Spurs until they had the villain Miami Heat to root against. That's what changed it. They just weren't thought of as a fun team to watch. And frankly, their offense wasn't that fun back then. It changed in
I know it did.
post Steve Nash. It did.
No, I know it did.
Because
I
it was
know- I
all
know it did.
post-ups before, and that was boring. So, yeah.
Yeah. Couple other things. I just want to give a couple other observations here about national TV before we move on to the rest of the schedule stuff. Golden State Warriors in 7th here at 28. Obviously, this is too many from a talent perspective, but Steph Curry it's still Steph. I just think this is interesting because it's like sort of an admission on the part of the NBA that like the dynasty is crumbling, and is sort of over. Like it's just weird to be in an era where the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry are only 7th in national TV games, as they should be, and they should be even lower. It's just funny. I'm so used to seeing them all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Also, Houston is 12th at 21 games. I think if you asked Houston fans a year ago, you're going to tie your future, leverage a lot of your future to this Kevin Durant trade. And a year from now, you're going to be 12th in the league in national TV games because everyone realizes you kind of suck. It's just a little amusing to me, too.
Yeah. What's the team outside of the Suns that you're the most interested in watching next year?
I mean, for the first 10 games, it's kind of the Sixers.
Yeah, it has to be, right? It just has to be.
You know?
It's not just LeBron. Like, they also traded for Jaylen Brown. Like, that is... It
Yeah.
would be interesting if they just added LeBron, but it's more interesting because there's a player who feels slighted and essentially asked his
But
way off a good team, a 54-win team.
Weirdly, the other thing I would say is so many of these teams in the West kind of feel more like finished products. So you're talking about the continuity of OKC. San Antonio, I expect to get even better because all their young guys are a year older, but it's the same core.
And once they add
The
Jalen Green...
East, what's interesting about the East is, yeah, you just have so many more ingredients with the Eastern Conference this year. Like, yes, there's the Sixers effect, and we'll see how the Sixers play, and the Knicks just won the championship. But, like, also, Tyrese Halliburton is back, and the Detroit Pistons are still a young team, and the Cavs still have a lot of talent, and, like,
Norm Powell
just a lot
and the
of
Detroit
things.
Pistons, too.
Yeah, a lot of things could happen.
And the,
in
and
the East
the
this-
I mean, we mentioned
Giannis,
them
on the Heat.
Giannis on the
even,
Heat,
you know?
the
So-
Wizards, like actually trying and having some interesting young talent on that team too, and Trae Young and Anthony Davis playing on that team at least to start. Kind of an interesting team there too, and of course Julius Randle on the on the Nets.
I keep forgetting.
Everyone's
I keep
very
forgetting that he's
excited.
on
We're
the
gonna
Nets.
have to do our off-season recap for the West and the East at some point. Maybe
I think I saw the Nets Suns game, the Suns game at Barclays, which people, longtime listeners know, I tend to go to that game because it's cheap and within a 5-hour drive of me. And I think it's a Wednesday this year, so I think I'm not going to be able to do it. So apologies to Julius Randle.
unfortunate. Yeah, you get to see both of your darlings in that one game. The Suns open the season Wednesday, October 21st at Portland. The first home game is Saturday, October 24th. Golden State Warriors here in Phoenix. Any thoughts on opening the season at Portland? I mean, it feels like just sort of an afterthought a little bit, which makes sense. I guess they played in the play-in game, so there's some postseason history there between those two teams.
Sure,
then-
it feels like we need two middling teams to open
Yeah.
the season against each
Yeah,
other.
we need
You
to
know?
find two teams that don't matter at the beginning of the season when we put the other good teams on nationally televised games. That's what it feels like. to me, too.
And here's the other thing, right? Is the Suns have a lot of instigators on their roster now. I mean, maybe it's just Dylan Brooks. I don't know. They have potentially a bunch of instigators.
Devin Booker.
they
Devin
don't-
Booker's a little bit of an instigator too.
They don't have a rivalry right now, and they need to earn one. I could see Portland potentially being a team like that, but it's, there are no particular feelings about the Blazers that I have.
I think
They're
we've
just a
talked
team.
about this. Like the last time the Suns played the Portland Trail Blazers in the playoffs was 2010, right? I'm not forgetting anything, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's
yeah,
not been a lot of playoff appearances since then. So
2010, they won in 6 games in the first round. Jason Richardson had 40 points
Yes.
in one of those games. I
Yes.
remember.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and there's just not a lot of
2010.
like history between those two teams that we talked about this before the play-in game where they feel, I don't know, significant as a rivalry. It just never feels like they will be.
But even if you look at our division this year, I mean, I think, the Lakers games will be fun. Like, we should be circling the Lakers games as always and wanting to win those games. I don't really foresee a rivalry blooming with any of the Warriors, the Clippers, or the Kings this year either.
Who's the most
guess
likely
maybe the
rival for
Rockets?
the Suns now?
The Rockets still?
I guess it weirdly feels like New Orleans in some way. Like it just feels like Devin Booker doesn't like them, and that feels. And there's still some players on that team that don't like the Suns. Really probably just Zion at this point, maybe.
I'm still the one team I'm still sort of sore about that I think we have the talent to take them down a notch, but it just hasn't happened is Minnesota. I would like for them to rise to the occasion and like spank Minnesota's ass for a season series.
Any thoughts on
It hasn't happened yet though.
the Emirates NBA Cup? The Phoenix Suns are in West Group A.
No, I have no thoughts about the NBA Cup.
The teams that they
we can
play
move on.
in that group are the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Rockets, and the Mavericks. Those are the other teams in the group. The first NBA Cup game is Friday, October 30th, which is versus Denver. I imagine there will be a different core and all the same stuff that happens. The actual NBA Cup games are December 4th through 11th, just as always. They're a few weeks before Christmas. the Suns have a chance if they win those games to be in that tournament. And if they miss it or something happens, then I guess they'll just add another. Whoever the best team in the NBA is, the Suns will just play an extra game against them again, I assume, because last year they played the OKC Thunder 5 times. And yeah, we'll see what happens with the with that. They do have.
Who'd you say that first game was against? The October 30th game?
That is against the Denver Nuggets.
Against Denver, that will be Devin Booker's 30th birthday.
That's true.
I happen to know.
Yeah, his golden birthday, too, on the 30th.
So he may score 300 points to celebrate.
Yeah, he needs at least 30, I feel like. A win would be fun. Let's see. Their longest homestand is 7 straight games in November. And that's as early as it can get in the season.
That's kind of fun to, gel a little bit and get some momentum at home to open the season. I kind of like that.
Yeah. They also have a 6-game road trip immediately after the All-Star break. By the way, the All-Star game, of course, in Phoenix. Don't forget. We talked about all the nationally televised games. Well, that one will be nationally televised and in Phoenix. So that one will happen here. Hopefully the Suns have one or maybe more than one. I think just probably one All-Star in that game. Otherwise, it'd be kind of humiliating for Devin Booker to be there and not be an All-Star, right? We kind of need him to make the All-Star game now more than ever.
Yeah, I agree. It would be super fun to get a second All-Star next to him, but I think in order to do that, they'd have to be definitely on a 50-win trajectory with a second guy who's averaging at least 20 points a game.
The second guy being Jalen Green or Dylan Brooks. That's really the only options there.
I mean, if Miles Bridges is averaging 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists, then sure, it could be him too. But yeah, it's probably Jalen Green or Dylan Brooks as your best bets.
Yeah, and the likelihood of the NBA giving Miles Bridges an All-Star is extremely low. Just going to say that. Any other thoughts on the schedule?
I think not really. You don't have any strength of schedule stats.
I mean,
at this point,
the Suns were in the middle of the road last year, so they'll probably have a middle of the road strength of schedule. I think the East is projected to be better than the West next year, so that is kind of different.
And thank God for that. It just feels like between playing 16 games against the Pacific Division, which in particular is not strong this year. Our division is not strong, and then our conference is not very strong. Mm-hmm. So they should have the opportunity. This is the thing I think about as we kind of approach the over-under episode at some point in the next month or whatever. I think everyone is betting on the Suns to win fewer games than last year. But there are some factors that are working in their favor to sort of make up the negative ground. If you perceive, the moves that they made this offseason as leading to negative ground for some reason, or that there should be some sort of regression, what they have working in their favor is, I think, maybe a strength of schedule argument. So we'll see.
Yeah. The NBA or the Basketball Hall of Fame ceremony was recently. Sam, we have yet to talk about it here on the podcast, and it's relevant. 2 significant figures in Phoenix Suns history are now in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Those people are Amare Stoudemire, former very high pick, third overall pick for the Phoenix Suns, and Mike D'Antoni. Ninth overall pick. Thank you. I was not a Suns fan yet, so I started later than that. So
from I think what was otherwise a pretty disastrous, now I gotta go look, 2002 NBA draft. How many players do you think you could name off the top of your head okay, how about this?
Very few.
Here's how we're gonna sort. Okay, I went to Basketball Reference and I sorted by career VORP for the 2002 NBA draft. Do you want me to just read you the top 5?
Yes.
They are Carlos Boozer, Amare Stoudemire. Mm-hmm. I think Amare definitely would have gotten Boozer if he had just a little bit more longevity.
Yeah, right.
Yao Ming in number 3, another guy who is in the Hall of Fame, I think understandably so, but didn't have much longevity.
Essentially played 6 solid years, and that's it.
Nene.
Oh.
In number 4.
Look, I like Nene, but that drops pretty fast.
Yeah, it really does.
Pretty fast.
And number 5, Tayshaun Prince. I think the interesting thing is, pretty weak draft overall, I would say. Nene was just rock solid for 16 years is the thing.
Yeah. and really couldn't do anything except rebound. He could do a lot of things is a better way to put it, but none of them great.
Yeah, but if you were a power forward who shot 48% inside the arc in 2006, you were a good power forward, and that's unfortunately what Nene was. And that's why let's bridge it here. That's why Amar'e, who is a legitimately terrifying force of nature and one of the most ferocious players to this day who I've ever seen with the basketball in his hands, was such a breath of fresh air and so different from a lot of the other guys he faced in the 2000s. And I view his inclusion in the Hall of Fame. I know some people, there were some arguments
we should talk about that.
from non-Suns fans about if he should be there in the first place. Look, we all know that the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame, that is just a little bit easier to get into, way easier to get into than, say, the Baseball Hall of Fame. So for Amar'e, being a 6-time All-Star, being part of a Suns core 7 seconds or less team that was viewed as immensely influential, being with the New York Knicks and sort of putting them back on the map.
Top 5 in MVP voting in his first year in New York.
The fact that they were the New York Knicks, I think absolutely had something to do with this case.
I think so too.
Multiple All-NBA first teams, I think absolutely had something to do, a big something to do with the case, because essentially this is validation that when you think of the 2000s and you think of the power forward centers, the 4-5s who are of that era, I think there are two tiers, and there's the absolute, at their best, MVP caliber guys, of which I would include Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki. Then Amar'e Stoudemire. And then after Amar'e Stoudemire, you've got distinctly in the second tier of player, really good power forwards, really good number twos on borderline championship teams. Think Pau Gasol, think Carlos Boozer, think LaMarcus Aldridge. But I think what's so interesting about Amar'e is that he really straddles the line between those two tiers, right? And you can go back and forth and you can have this battle. Is he more deserving of being in the Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett group, or is he more deserving of being more of a Pau Gasol, a Carlos Boozer in the eyes of NBA history? And I think you just look at the numbers that he was putting up in his prime and putting up 35 and 10 on Tim Duncan's head as a 22-year-old in the Western Conference Finals, going at Dirk Nowitzki in some of those playoff series with those sorts of numbers too. And he really is deserving of being in that group. It's just unfortunate what the injuries took away from him.
It's an interesting argument that people had. And I found myself being a little bit surprised of the argument around whether or not Amar'e Stoudemire deserved to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. But I will say, after sort of taking a step back and taking the Phoenix Suns glasses off, I don't know, I do kind of understand it. I kind of understand why people were questioning that. I think if you were a Suns fan and you watched his day-to-day impact in and out every single game, being part of maybe the, I don't know, at worst, third best pick and roll partnership in the history of the NBA between him and Steve Nash, you understand it when you watched it all the time. And not to mention, as he got later and later in his career, he added that sort of 18-foot face-up game where he could face up, shoot on you, or just drive to the rim. Once his athleticism started to wane because of injuries, you just really appreciate that you not only can run the offense through him and Steve, but when Steve was off the floor, now all of a sudden you can run the offense through him. And there is a little bit of a era shift with what you have to do to be a power forward now being so dramatically different that it's hard to contextualize the stats and what he was doing, because it's different. You shoot threes now, you make more assists now when you're a power forward. Back then, you didn't need assists. He was a finisher. That's what you needed him to do. You didn't need him to shoot threes because everyone else was shooting threes. On the Suns, at least. It wasn't true of the rest of the NBA, but that was true for the Suns. Especially when Channing Frye and them were next to each other. I really loved what they could do together. So I do kind of wonder if he was never on the Knicks, would he still be in the Hall of Fame? I do kind of wonder that. I still think he probably would deserve it. His playoff performances are probably the thing for me where it's just watch those. Watch what he did to multi-time Defensive Player of the Year, Tim Duncan, in the NBA playoffs when it mattered the most. And watch what the Suns did without him on the floor. He was the catalyst for beating the Spurs whenever they did. And so that alone, to me, was enough to get him in there. So I guess I was a little surprised by the discourse around Amari Stoudemire making it. And then a little less as I took a little bit of a step back and I kind of considered it from a different perspective. I am grateful he's there. I think he deserves it, and I think the Phoenix Suns deserve it for that time to represent those teams. And then, of course, on the other side of that, you have anything else on Amari before we move on to D'Antoni?
I mean, I'm just really happy that he was there. Like, I was a Suns fan through not all of the 2000s, but my childhood. I was a Suns fan for the entire Nash Stoudemire era. But I was a New Yorker, right? And then when Amari came to New York in 2010, I watched a lot of Knicks games as a kid. I kind of considered them to be my second team. At a certain point, I really took off in terms of like just solely being a Suns fan. But I still watch Knicks games, right, just because they're sort of the local team. When Amari came to New York in 2010, he really did put the city back on the map and like breathed new life into the franchise in a way that, we're talking about a team that had been rooting for guys like Zach Randolph and Al Harrington and David Lee and like just perpetual 23-win season after 23-win season in the 2000s. So my first ever NBA game was watching Amari Stoudemire with the Knicks, and like he was just so awesome, and he deserves it. But yeah, I think part of what you're saying is right, that the fact that he went to New York, there just is that inherent bias, unfortunately. Like if he had gone to the Toronto Raptors in the summer of 2010, would he have had the same opportunity?
Or maybe
Probably
if they had
not.
traded him for Steph Curry to the Golden State Warriors,
right,
like they tried to do.
Yeah, and the Warriors were building around Monte Ellis and Amari in the season of 2010.
Yeah.
Maybe not the same story. So
I think he would probably be known as the guy who was traded for a 2-time MVP if his career played out the same. And so it's just kind of interesting to think about it, and I'm happy he's there regardless. But Mike D'Antoni also was inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame. Mike D'Antoni, of course, the Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni years lined up in Phoenix and defined the Phoenix Suns until 2009, I think was the last season when Shaq killed it. And then Alvin Gentry took over. Mike D'Antoni, though, went on.
You're forgetting the one Terry Porter season, 08.
That's right. I did forget that. Completely forgot that. Imagine if we were covering the team back then, what we would have said about Terry Porter. Whew, what an awful time. Mike D'Antoni went on to be successful elsewhere in New York or in Houston. I think was probably his next biggest success, where they were amazing under Mike D'Antoni.
Did you get a chance to watch either of their speeches?
I didn't watch them yet, actually. I do intend to watch them. I just had a busy weekend. Did you?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, I did. I made sure to watch them. It's always fun that the NBA always posts the full speeches on YouTube, so they're easy to find. What I thought was really funny about Coach Mike D'Antoni's speech is he's recapping the chapters of his NBA life, right? And there's essentially 3 important chapters of his NBA coaching, because he was a player and he talks about his experience as a player, first in the ABA, then the NBA, and then Europe for many years.
Where he was friends with Kobe's dad. Yeah.
Right, which I suppose is part of why he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, too, because it's about more than just the NBA. But
yeah, he probably earned it on his coaching merits alone, though.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that in a second, but first, he's breaking down the different chapters, and he sort of, he makes a reference to the Nash years in 7 seconds or less. And on the other tail end, James Harden is there in the crowd as well, which was nice to see him talk about the Rockets and all of the success he had with the Rockets. But in the middle, with his part about the Knicks, he talks about Jeremy Lin and Linsanity, and Jeremy Lin is in the crowd. And it's just really funny. Like, that was also an important touchstone, I suppose, in NBA history. Like, just a micro you had to be there moment.
It really was, yeah.
But giving equal weight to 15 games of Linsanity as on one end 7 seconds or less, and on
Those
the other
teams
end
were so
James
hurt
Harden
when he was there.
James Harden challenging the championship Warriors.
Yeah.
It's just very funny.
Yeah.
Shout out Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, just with the Suns running into the Spurs and the Lakers, and with the Rockets running into the dynastic Warriors, it's just a tough beat for Mike D'Antoni, but a charming guy and a good coach who never coached defense, apparently.
The argument I got into actually with my friend over the weekend on this, when I said, hey, did you know Mike D'Antoni's in the Hall of Fame? And he said, well, he shouldn't be.
And he said, shut up, nerd.
His argument was that he was willing to make an exception for Amari or players who do not win a championship. But he said that there is no reason that a coach who does not win a championship, and by the way, D'Antoni was very self-deprecating, made a joke about the fact that he did not have a ring in his speech. But he said a coach who does not have a championship should not be inducted in the Hall of Fame based on his coaching merits. Do you have any take?
I like when people have arbitrary rules like that. I don't agree with it, but I think it's fun.
Okay.
I think that Mike D'Antoni is not just a coach who's extremely successful for a very long time. He also is sort of a guy who defines the shift in the way the NBA is played from a coaching standpoint. Now, is he the...
And that's the point that I was trying to make, but then you do kind of look like Kirk Goldsberry when you start saying that to people.
You think so, dude? Sam Cooper? But, bro, I do think that there are other guys and other coaches. Don Nelson, in fact, just passed away.
I just realized the joke you were making about Kirk Goldsberry using my full name.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Zach Lowe. Anyway,
bro. Listen, there are other guys like Don Nelson who recently passed away who also are representative of the shift into like a pick and roll style basketball, which, by the way, the NBA has moved away from, but it ruled the NBA for like 8 years. And it changed how teams played. It became more analytics focused. It became more 3-point heavy. It became faster and faster and faster and faster till now, where we're sort of peaking in speed. And he's the guy who preached it more than anyone. And I think for people who care about the history of the game, that matters. And like the Basketball Hall of Fame should care about the history of the game.
Of course.
So
he
obviously
beyond
should be
just
there.
beyond just some of the raw volume accolades, right? So here's what I will say: I could go either way on D'Antoni really deserving to be in the Hall of Fame, on the basis of like, I get it. He's not one of the guys who has like 800 wins or whatever. Like I actually looked it up. He's 25th in history in playoff wins, and he's 22nd in history in regular season wins. And there are guys above him on those lists who are not in the Hall of Fame. But there is the influence of 7 seconds or less. And there is the undoubtable fact that, like, again, to go back to my friend who I was arguing with, just because you win a championship doesn't mean shit. You think Frank Vogel is going to be in the Hall of Fame? Mm-hmm. You know? You think Mike Budenholzer is going to be in the Hall of Fame on his coaching merits? I don't think so. You gave the ball to Giannis and had Brook Lopez to shoot threes? I don't know. Maybe that's a little disrespectful to
D'Antoni should have a championship. He should. He just happened to run into teams that were like iconic, legendary teams.
He just happened to run into Tim Donaghy and Scott Foster.
Yeah, David Stern.
And David Stern.
Yeah.
To bring this episode around in a really poetic way.
Triggering everyone listening, yeah.
We started this podcast by talking about
cheating
corruption.
is now legal.
About cheating and corruption and why everything sucks. And we're bringing it all the way back around to remind people of the cheating and the corruption and how everything sucked in 2007 and how it robbed these two beautiful men of a championship who are now in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
I have one other thing to cover on this episode.
Okay.
Before we say goodbye.
And what's that?
Is it on your list?
What is it?
It's about the Ishbia family.
Is it because you brought up cheating and corruption?
No, it has nothing to do with that.
Good.
It's
allegedly.
It's about a report that maybe Matt Ishbia and Justin Ishbia, who co-own the Phoenix Suns, are looking to purchase the shares of a couple of remaining minority owners that would push their level of ownership of the team to virtually 99%. None of this is official. This is just a report that maybe there is an agreement out there this week for Ishbia to be a 99% owner of the Suns. That is not without precedent. There are many other teams in the NBA. I don't know about many. I'd have to count exactly how many there are. But there are other NBA teams in which there is like an owner or a family that owns, basically the entire thing.
One less now
but
than the Lakers.
Yes, correct. But Ishbia, when they purchased, or the Ishbia family, I should say, for including his brother in it, when they purchased the Suns for, what was it, $4 billion a few years ago, they were more like in the basically 51 to 60% camp, and there were a whole bunch of other minority owners who they had to convince to sell their shares, and there have been a couple of minority owners who have countersued them, or sued them, and then they countersued because of a whole bunch of allegations that are going on that are kind of a bunch of disputes between rich people that aren't particularly interesting. Do you have any takes on the Ishbia family owning 99% of the Suns if it does happen?
No. I mean, I think that if the Lakers were evaluated at $12 billion, I find the timing to be at least a little bit interesting. Maybe that pushed minority owners to say, can we push the valuation of the Phoenix Suns to a higher amount and get our shares purchased at that higher valuation? I'm curious about that valuation if this is ever made official as far as what the Phoenix Suns are. Okay.
Well, the most recent valuation of the Suns, because Forbes reevaluates the teams every year. Is 5 point something billion. It's higher than when the Ishbias purchased the Suns just a few years ago. Yeah. Right? They're basically saying, well, if the Lakers went up 20 to 30% in value in 2.5 years, then why wouldn't the Suns?
And as a business decision, those guys and those people who held out are now making more than they would have had they sold in the initial valuation.
Here's what I will say. I'm not going to make any speculations on the financial health of Matt Ishbia's company, United Wholesale Mortgage. This podcast isn't really about that.
Yeah,
but there was some news. There was some news about UWM this week. And I would just say I'm not going to – I don't know. They had a really rough financial quarter. Maybe it doesn't affect the team for now. If they have another couple rough financial quarters in a row, maybe it would affect the team eventually. It does just make sense to me, though, based on the numbers and the valuations being what they are, that in the short, medium, or potentially even long term, like the Phoenix Suns could be more important to Matt Ishbia's financial, health than his parent company.
But only if only if he sells.
Right. Only if eventually he sells. But I'm just saying his company, UWM, right now at this one point in time is not worth that much. It's not worth the 5 point something billion dollars that supposedly the Suns are worth.
Which is interesting. Yeah.
And so evaluating the Suns just because of what the supply and demand of owning an NBA team is and how complicated and difficult it is to actually own one of these 30 or 32 teams, this asset that Ishbia now owns and potentially will own up to 99% of will continue to be very valuable. Unless, as I said at the beginning of this episode, some sort of bubble pops and people aren't watching the NBA anymore, in which case he really would be in trouble.
Which would take years, probably.
But for now, the belief is that, owning an NBA team, to go back to the example of the Lakers selling for $12.5 billion, owning an NBA team right now is returning you more money on your asset. Like, it's way beating just the stock market. Like, if you go back to 1980, the amount of money that the Buss family purchased the Lakers for, if they had dropped all of that money in 1980 into an index that tracked the S&P 500, first of all, they would have killed it. They would have made so much money over the last 40 years because, the American economy, largely the stock market has made a lot of money over the last 40 years. They still would have made more by selling for the $12.5 billion that the Lakers just sold for. I guarantee it. So the NBA has been a pretty good return on investment.
In 1979.
Exactly.
The specific valuation attributed to the Lakers portion of that transaction was $16 million in 1979. So I was just looking that up to see. And now it's sold for $12 billion. That's really kind of nuts. It's really kind of insane to think about. The reason I think it's important to point out that the value is only the value if you sell is because it's a unique business venture in that way. they're probably not going to, the guys who just bought the Lakers are probably not going to make $12 billion in profits from the Lakers. You know?
Kushner and the Kushner
Iger.
family and Bob Iger.
Yeah. But they could make that money back if they sold. And the reason I think that's important to point out is because if there ever was a time that Matt Ishbia needed an influx of cash, he could sell a portion of the team and get that influx of cash. It's a smart way to do it, in fact. And, you know, he's doing the opposite, which is very Matt Ishbia, I think, just based on what we know about him. But if there's a world where that valuation actually matters, it's when you sell. Because there's only 30 teams, because the total amount of teams is limited, it's capped, the value is based on the scarcity. And that's why they sell for so much. And it is an interesting thing to look at and to see what happens. I don't anticipate that anything's going to happen with Matt Ishbia anytime soon, which is what we've been saying on this podcast. But I do find it interesting that the loans that he borrowed for the team, according to the Forbes report that came out about, what's happening with his mortgage company right now, which is losing a ton of value. The loans are secured based on stock that he owns of UWM. If that stock continues to fall, those creditors could pull something on him. And I do find that interesting. What would happen then? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm honestly not enough of an expert to say, but I do think it's just interesting to your point that, like, I think two things can be true at once, and that's why there's nuance in this conversation. I believe that Matt Ishbia and the Ishbia family generally, they really love basketball. They really want to be NBA owners. They're committed to making the Phoenix Suns, like, you know, a good basketball team or whatever.
Good.
Because he enjoys it. Yeah. I mean, he enjoys being an owner. He enjoys being in the spotlight. He wants to make splashy moves. He wants to win a championship. I believe all of that. And at the same time, like, it probably matters to him that he bought into the scarce asset that is continuing to appreciate rapidly in value. And yeah, if at some point he needs to sell some of that value for cash, then I'm sure he loves the opportunity. He loves the fact that he has the opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to track. This is the type of thing that you have to follow as an NBA fan now. I just have to follow these kinds of things. Anything else before we go?
Oh, no, I think that was enough.
Got some good stuff on the horizon. Patreon podcast coming soon. Also an episode on our Patreon podcast sometime in the next week or so regarding Coach Carter. We'll talk about that on our alternate timeline.
Should Coach
feed.
Carter be in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame?
We'll find out.
Discuss.
We'll find out. I've never seen it. Sam hasn't seen it since he was a kid, and we'll talk about that sometime in the next week on the alternate timeline feed, along with a regular weekly Patreon podcast about the NBA and the Phoenix Suns. We appreciate you all. If you want to sign up there, patreon.com/thetimeline. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Back soon.